Welcome to week 38. Today we'll continue with our 16th note rhythm warm-ups. Our next gold standard scales, which will be these four scales: B flat major, B flat harmonic minor, E flat major, and E flat harmonic minor. And then I'm very excited to get started on one of my favorite genres of music, ragtime. Now that we've studied all of our 4-note chords, we are ready for ragtime because it contains all of those types of chords. And so we will be looking at a piece I composed today called the 1/4 rag. But before we do, let's go over to the drum and get rhythmically warmed up. Let's get started on line 1. The metronome will be set at 40 BPM and the clicks will represent the downbeats. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Change hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Top line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to line 2, we're going to speed our metronome up to 45 BPM, but today we are going to have each of these clicks be on the okay? So here we are. Let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Top of line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whew, that was fun, right? All right, let's try line 3. And if that wasn't hard enough, let's try to put the metronome on 25 BPM, which means we will be going a little faster at 50 BPM, but now the metronome is going to be on halftime. So the clicks will represent the first and the third Let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Top line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moving on to line 4, we'll speed our metronome up to 30 BPM, which means we'll be going at 60 while the metronome is on half time. And now the clicks of the metronome will represent the of the 2 and the 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now that we're all rhythmically warmed up, let's head back to the piano. For today's piece, we'll be looking at the 1/4 rag. For anybody not familiar with ragtime, I will provide a link to the Wikipedia article in the description of this video with composers such as the king of ragtime himself, Scott Joplin. There's James Scott, Joseph Lamb, lots of other great composers. So this is an amazing genre of music that I highly encourage everyone to look into. And today we'll be looking at my homage to this music, and we're going to be doing 3 things in this analysis. The first is we're going to do a formal analysis, so we're going to look at the form of this piece. Then we're going to dive in and we're going to look at the harmonies next, and then I'm going to point out a few little ragtime isms, of a few things that at first might look difficult on the page, but when I point it out to you, we'll see that it's actually very easy. It's a ragtime technique, and once you understand it that way, the ink itself won't look as intimidating. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the form of this piece. Now in ragtime, you usually have 4 different sections. Today we are only looking at 1/4, right? That's why this is the 1/4 rag. We're only looking at the first section of a ragtime piece, and that begins with our 4-measure intro. Ragtime is very formulaic in that, like the blues, it usually follows a very standard set of measures. Intros tend to be 4 measures long. Next, we have a 16-measure section, and that is made of 2 groups of 8, all right? So this is our first part of the A section that we would call it, and then that part repeats, right? So we have almost the exact same first 4 measures right here and here, and then the difference is in the second 4 measures, where in these measures right here, the idea is to bring us back to the top of the A section, whereas over here, the idea is to wrap up the idea and either allow us to finally come back to our repeat, or if we take the second ending, then we will mash that up with maybe the 2/4 rag. I don't know. You'll have to stay tuned to find out. So that's our form. It's very simple in this case because it's only a very small fragment of a ragtime piece. We have the intro and the A section. The A section is broken up into two parts, 8 bars each, 8 measures each, and each of those is very similar in how it starts, and then the second 4 measures of each of those groups is a little bit different. All right, now let's talk about the harmonies that we're seeing here. So as you can see, we are in the key of A flat major. All right, and so A flat major is a very popular key for ragtime. In fact, the most popular song ever written in ragtime, the Maple Leaf Rag, is an A flat. It really fits under your hands well, as you'll find with this piece. So what we start out with is an A flat major scale. We're playing around with that and we're adding chromaticism. All right, so it's our A flat major scale, but it's adding a lot of chromaticism and it's sort of pointing us to the 5, to E flat. All right, in this case that's our 5, and then that will bring us to our 1, which is A flat. Now, ragtime is very traditional in its harmony, which is why we can use Roman numerals for this. And that's why we can also look at ragtime now that we know all of our 4-note chords, because it's usually going to just be a very simple, by the textbook harmonic progression, colored with some sort of 4-note chord. All right, so in this case, we can see that we're bouncing back and forth between the A flat chord, and we continue to do that here until you get this little chromatic step up, and that will take us to our E flat, and that is also the 5. All right, now one little trick that I did throw in here for some color is I went up a half step from that E flat, so we have just a regular E right here. I'll try to get that so you can see it. There we go. You know, we don't have to factor that in harmonically. We could call it the sharp 5, whatever. It's just taking an idea and then doing it a half step up and then bringing it back, right? So here I'm really thinking about A flat. So we've kind of returned to our 1. And as you can see, we kind of are walking down the A flat major scale here in our left hand, while over here, we kind of are walking up the A flat major scale, but using some chromaticism. As you can see, we've wrapped up our first 4 measures, and that is going to also be the exact same thing that is happening on these 4 measures. And you can see that we have a nice little closed loop. We have a 1 to a 5 and to a 1, although it's not so boring because we added a little flavor in there with the E, with that half step raise that technically takes us way out of our key signature for a fraction of a second, okay? Now, taking a look at how the first section is going to wrap up, this takes us back to our E flat, all right? So this is our 5. And again, remember, as a composer, you want to be economical with your material. So if you're going to do something special, like that chromatic shift where I went from the E flat to the E, you want to do that a few times. That's going to be in the piece now. It's a part of the DNA, so you might as well explore it a little bit more. And so we do that. We extend it a little bit. In the first time that we saw that, we noticed that it happened pretty quickly. Within 1 measure, we shifted those harmonies, but now each of these measures is going to be exploring that sound. And what do you know? We actually get back to our A flat major scale with chromaticism. And then that takes us to our 5, right? It's always nice to throw something in again that you've already used, because that repetition legitimizes your idea. So look, here's the exact same thing, except this time, don't forget about that 8VA. Your right hand is going to be up an octave, but that's not a problem, right? Because we are practicing our gold standard scales, and having our right hand way up there is no problem anymore. As I said, we don't need to go over these chords because they are exactly the same as these. So now what we're going to be looking at is the contrasting section of this. We're going to be looking right here, okay? We're going to start this section with the 1. And then we are going to have a little bit of a surprise, right? So I think you're starting to see that basically ragtime uses very common progressions, 1s and 5s, and then we'll throw in a little bit of a spice, right? And I think that's really what made ragtime very, very cool, was that it did follow the rules very much, and then every now and then would throw in one of these spicy chords. So our spicy chord in this section is going to be the major 3, which is a little weird because usually we should have a C minor, but that E natural really is going to kind of complete this sound that we want here, which, if we take a look, is going to bring us to a D flat major. That is the 4. We're going to use a diminished chord, right? One of our diminished friends, and we'll go ahead and call this F diminished because the lowest note is F, right? But we do know that of all the diminished shapes, there's only 3, and this is the one that has F in it, right? And so continuing on, the F diminished is going to bring us to a 1 chord, but it's a 1 chord on top of the 5. The classical term for this would be the 1, 6, 4, and I'll go ahead and drag that down so we can see it a little better. The 1, 6, 4, which is really just an A flat chord, the 1 chord with a E flat in the bass, with the 5 in the bass, right? Now here again, we are going to have that chromaticism that we had back at the beginning. So here is our E dominant 7, and we know that that is going to bring us to our E flat dominant 7, take us to our 1, and then back to the 5 so that we can repeat, right? Most ragtime sections do have repeats, okay? So the first ending and the second ending are basically the same thing. The only difference is that this one has a 5 right here to take us home, whereas this one, we are home, okay? We land on the 1 and it's over. For now, right? Until we get the 2/4 rag. Let's talk about some ragtime isms, okay? Some techniques that are specific to ragtime that may at first look difficult, but actually turn out to be pretty easy, all right? So first of all, I want to draw your attention to sections in the right hand, such as this. Of course, we have it here as well, and here as well, and also it's going on right here. So what I call this is we're having an anchor point usually in the middle of this giant cluster, right? So at first, when you look at one of these big clusters, you might think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to move my hand so far, so quickly. But that's not necessarily the case. That's not exactly what is happening here. What we have is that we're usually anchoring our middle fingers, right, to 2 keys that don't move. So you'll notice that all these notes that I'm highlighting in here don't move, or they move very little. And then the outside notes are just rotating around those anchor points, all right? And so instead of thinking of this as, hey, I need to like move to all these different chords, think of it as you find that anchor point in the middle and you're moving your other outside notes around that, and it makes it much easier to do. Another ragtime technique is actually the way that the music itself is written. Notice how we are in the time signature of 2/4, and that our lowest subdivision is going to be the 16th note, right? Now, a lot of people make the misconception that when you see 16th notes, you have to play fast and play straight. But the thing is that most ragtime was composed with the specific instruction to play it slowly. We're talking around 50, 60, 70 BPM, not that fast. But what that does is it really makes 2/4 feel more like 4/4 when you have all of those 16th notes crammed in there. Because if you think about it, if you have a measure of 4/4 and you're using 8th notes, there's the same amount of notes as if you're in 2/4, but you're cramming a bunch of 16th notes. So as you'll hear in this recording, I'm going to lightly swing these 16th notes. It's almost going to feel like I'm playing in 4/4 because it's going to feel like swinging 8th notes. But really what I'm doing is I'm playing a very slow 2/4 around 50, 60, 70 BPM. And then I'm swinging those 8th notes, or I'm sorry, I'm swinging the 16th notes with all of that extra space that I have in there, all right? So let's go ahead and check out what this piece sounds like on the keyboard. If you enjoyed today's music, you can find this and much more on my website, pianodojo.com, or you can show your support by subscribing and sharing my channel with anybody who's looking for answers about the piano. Until next time, happy practicing.